First story. My younger daughter cheated with my older daughter's fiancé and got pregnant. So I allowed them to get married in the same wedding venue and told my older daughter to move on. I didn't celebrate her birthday and stopped contacting her. Now, 4 years later, I demanded that she apologize to her ex-fiancé and sister, accept their child as her nephew, and reconcile. Now I'm regretting it. My 2 daughters are 31 and 27 now. About 4 years ago, my older daughter's life got completely turned upside down in a way that I wouldn't wish on anyone. She was engaged to be married to a guy she had dated since her final year of college. They'd been together 5 years. We liked him. We'd grown to consider him family. The wedding was fully planned, the venue booked, and the invitations out. She was literally weeks away from walking down the aisle. Then he left her for her younger sister. It sounds insane even typing it out. But yeah, my younger daughter was 2 months pregnant with her sister's fiancé's child when it all came out. It was like something out of a bad movie. One day everything seemed fine. The next my older daughter was calling us in tears saying he had left, and that my younger daughter had something to do with it. A week later, they told us they were together and expecting. I can't even describe the level of shock and disgust that ran through our family. I was furious. Not just disappointed, angry to my core. I still don't understand how they let it happen or how it went on for long enough to get to that point. My wife and I tried to process it the best we could, but my older daughter completely shut down. She moved out of state for a while. Wouldn't talk to her sister. Didn't want updates. She cut off everyone except me and her mum. And honestly, even with us, she kept her distance. The early months after that were awful. My younger daughter was clearly ashamed and defensive at the same time. She cried a lot, said she knew it was unforgivable, but also insisted they hadn't meant for it to happen. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't understand how she could do that to her own sister. My wife and I both told her straight up that what she did was a deep betrayal. Her answer was always the same. I fell in love with him, and it got out of hand. She stood by him. She married him a year later. Somehow they're still together now. Still married. And they've tried really hard to keep a low profile within the family out of guilt or fear of rejection. I'm not sure which. My older daughter, meanwhile, made it clear from day one that she would not be in the same room as either of them. No holidays, no birthdays, nothing. She told us, if she's going to be there, I won't be. And we respected that. I didn't want to force her into anything, so we've had separate holiday dinners for 4 years now. My wife and I split time between them. We've celebrated birthdays in shifts. One year, we even had 2 Christmas mornings. It's been exhausting. It's fractured everything. And for all these years, I felt like I'm walking on a tightrope between 2 very angry, hurt people. One daughter who feels destroyed and betrayed, and another who deeply regrets how things happened, but also feels like no one will ever truly forgive her. Add a grandchild to the mix, and it becomes even messier. Yes, my grandson. He's 4 now. A sweet kid. I tried to be a good grandfather to him. He didn't ask for any of this. He has no idea about the drama swirling around him. He just wants to play with toy trucks and have someone cheer when he makes up silly stories. I've tried to show up for him, even if I'm still mad at how he came into this world. That might sound harsh, but I think some part of me resented the situation so much that it was hard to bond at first. I worked through that. I didn't want to punish an innocent child. The problem is, I let too much slide over the years. In trying to make sure my older daughter didn't feel abandoned or overlooked, I didn't push back when she said cruel things, especially about the kid. She never calls him by name. She says things like, that child, or the spawn of a homewrecker. I'd cringe every time, but I wouldn't say much. I was afraid to break the fragile line of communication we had. Looking back, I should have said something sooner. The moment that finally pushed everything over the edge happened this past February. My older daughter came by the house unexpectedly on a Sunday morning. She said she wanted to drop off something for my wife, a new cookbook or something, and assumed we were alone. But we weren't. My younger daughter, her husband, and my grandson were there for breakfast. They'd slept over the night before because their house was having plumbing issues, and my wife didn't want them staying in a hotel. When my older daughter walked in and saw them at the table, it was like time stopped. My grandson waved at her like he always does with strangers, cheerful and clueless. No one moved at first. My wife tried to say something to break the silence, but it was pointless. My younger daughter started crying almost immediately. She tried again for what felt like the 100th time to apologize. Her voice cracked, and she said something about how she knows she'll never be forgiven, but that she still wanted to try to make peace someday. And then she said something she hadn't told anyone yet, that they were seeing a specialist because they suspect my grandson might be on the autism spectrum. She started crying harder after that, and I could tell it took a lot for her to say that out loud. That's when my older daughter spoke. Cold. Flat. She looked right at her and said, "Well, maybe that's the karma for cheating on your sister and getting knocked up. Maybe now you'll understand what it's like to live with something you can't fix." It hit the room like a grenade. My son-in-law stood up. He didn't yell, but his voice got loud. He told her to get the hell out. They got into it for a minute, not physical or anything, but loud enough that my wife took the kid into another room. My older daughter left first. Everyone was shaken. My younger daughter was shaking so hard, she couldn't even finish what she was saying. And I sat there, not sure how to even process what just happened. I've seen my kids fight over the years, but never anything like that. That night, I called my older daughter and told her what she said was over the line, way over. It wasn't just insensitive, it was cruel. And I told her that unless she apologized, she shouldn't come over again. She laughed at first. Not a nervous laugh, not shock. Just a dry, tired sound, like I'd said something ridiculous. Then she asked me why I suddenly cared so much about hurt feelings now, after everything she'd been through. I told her it wasn't about sparing anyone's feelings. It was about what she said about a child who had nothing to do with any of this. I said she could be furious at her sister forever, and I wouldn't stop her. I said she could hate her ex until the end of time, and I'd understand. But bringing a child's development into it and calling it punishment crossed a line I couldn't ignore. That's when she went after me. She said I had no right to lecture her about decency. She said I spent 4 years babysitting a cheater and her husband just so I could play grandpa. She said I'd already chosen which daughter mattered more and that I was just too cowardly to admit it out loud. According to her, my sudden outrage had nothing to do with morality and everything to do with making sure I didn't lose access to my grandson. She also told me my parenting was atrocious. She said I raised one daughter who betrayed her own sister and another daughter who was told to be the strong one, while everyone else tiptoed around her pain. Then she called my younger daughter a disgusting word that I won't repeat here. That was the point where I ended the call. What's been eating at me is that parts of what she said weren't completely wrong. I have taken her side more often over the years. I thought that was obvious. I went to her more. I checked on her more. I supported her financially for a bit after everything blew up because she couldn't focus at work. I never did that for my younger daughter. I barely spoke to her for months at a time early on. I thought that showed where I stood. But at the same time, I didn't stop my older daughter when she made comments that were unnecessary. I didn't challenge her bitterness when it hardened into something sharp and mean. I let it grow because I told myself it was grief talking and that it would fade eventually. It hasn't. She's not the person she used to be. She's successful at work, yes, but personally she's isolated. She doesn't date. She doesn't trust anyone. She assumes every disagreement is betrayal. Every slight is deliberate. She keeps receipts of every wrong she's ever experienced. Conversations with her feel like walking through a room full of broken glass. I've tried to get her help. I didn't spring it on her in the middle of a fight. I brought it up calmly, more than once, over the last couple of years. I offered to pay. I offered to go with her if she wanted. I offered to help find someone. Every time, she shut it down and told me she wasn't the problem. My younger daughter hasn't forgiven herself either. I'm not defending what she did, but she lives with constant shame. She rarely talks about the affair, unless it's brought up. She knows what she did ruined her relationship with her sister permanently. Her marriage exists under that shadow. The thing is, despite everything, I've seen her try to be better. She doesn't excuse what happened. She doesn't downplay it. She knows there's no fixing it. She just tries to move forward. Then there's the kid. My grandson didn't understand what happened that day. All he knew was that everyone got upset, and then Grandma took him away from the table. He asked later why his aunt didn't like him. That question sat in my chest for days. I can accept that my older daughter will never forgive her sister. I can accept that she doesn't want a relationship with that child. What I can't accept is her using him as a target to say the cruelest thing she can think of and calling it honesty. I told her she wasn't welcome at the house unless she apologized. Not to patch things up or make peace or hug it out. Just an acknowledgement that what she said was wrong. She refused and said she wouldn't apologize for telling the truth. Now the rest of the family is divided. Some say I should have let it go, that my older daughter has earned the right to say whatever she wants after what was done to her. Others say I waited too long to say anything, and that I helped create this mess by letting resentment go unchecked for years. And they're probably both right. I look at my daughters and feel like I failed both of them in different ways. I raised two smart, driven women who used to be close. Now one is drowning in rage and the other in shame. I keep replaying moments from when they were kids, wondering where I missed something, where I should have stepped in harder, and where I should have said no. I don't want to lose my older daughter. I don't want to enable something that keeps hurting people either. I'm tired of pretending this can all coexist peacefully when it clearly can't. So I stood my ground this time. And now I'm left wondering if I handled this too late, too harshly, or not well at all. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. You let your younger daughter blow up her sister's life, get pregnant by her fiancé, and still walk around like she's some tragic figure. Your oldest didn't even get a chance to process what happened before the whole family moved on. And don't give me, we split holidays. You let them stay overnight at your house. You let your son-in-law, who F'd both sisters, emotionally eat breakfast at your table like he didn't nuke your daughter's world. And then your youngest pulls out a possible autism diagnosis like a sympathy grenade mid-apology. You don't see how manipulative that is? Oh, by the way, my kid might be autistic. Please forgive me now. What? Your oldest daughter's comment wasn't delicate, sure. But she's not out here plotting revenge. She's lashing out after 4 years of biting her tongue while you hosted baby showers and Sunday breakfasts for her ex and sister. If she wanted revenge, she could have made a public scene. She didn't. She stayed the hell away. And now you're saying she crossed a line. You made her bitter by letting betrayal live rent-free under your roof. Honestly, don't expect her to come back from this. You made your choice when you let that man call you Phil after what he did. Comment 2. Let's stop dancing around it. You picked a side years ago. You kept telling yourself you were neutral, but your actions were loud. You forgave the younger daughter quickly, allowed her to carry on with her life, gave her space to raise a child in comfort, and stayed close enough to play grandpa. But the one whose entire world got shattered, you gave her support and long silences. Your older daughter didn't just lose a fiancé. She lost trust in you, in her sister, in the concept of family. And you proved her right. She didn't cut you off, you were still in her life, so she must have been trying to hold on. But after years of watching you host breakfasts and split holidays, that thread finally snapped. And now you're shocked that she finally unloaded the resentment she's been carrying. That she let the bitterness you helped fester actually show itself. If your younger daughter wanted to apologize, she could have done it privately. But instead, she drops a possible autism diagnosis into the middle of a family explosion and expects what? Sympathy. Forgiveness. It came off calculated. Whether it was or not, it hit that way. You failed both daughters, but in different ways. And now the one who got burned is the one you're exiling. I'd be amazed if she ever speaks to you again. YTA. Comment 3. Everyone here's ready to crucify the younger daughter. And yeah, she made a brutal choice. I'm not defending that. But can we be honest for a second? People screw up relationships all the time. Sometimes it's cheating, sometimes it's messier. This wasn't just a mistake, it became a life. She carried that guilt into every room with her for years and still showed up. She married the guy. She tried to keep her head down. She didn't demand forgiveness or try to force reconciliation. She just existed under the weight of her own shame and hoped time would dull it. Now her son might be autistic. And the first thing her sister says is that's karma. Like this child is a cosmic punishment for falling in love with the wrong person. That's disgusting. If my kid had to hear something like that, I'd lose it too. The irony is your younger daughter probably already believes deep down that she deserves all this hate. She's been living like she's waiting to be punished. What your older daughter did wasn't just mean, it validated every awful thing her sister already thinks about herself. So no, you're not wrong for shutting it down. But if you actually care about fixing this family, assuming that's even possible, you need to stop reacting when the fire spreads and start paying attention to the smoke. This wasn't sudden. This was a slow collapse. Everyone's bleeding. No one's healing. Update. Things have only gotten messier since I made the original post. I wish I could say someone had a breakthrough or some healing started to happen. But the truth is, I don't think this family will ever function as a unit again. A few weeks after the blow-up in February, my son-in-law called me directly. He wasn't angry at first, just dead serious. He said we couldn't keep brushing things off like they'd go away. He told me it's been 4 years, and he's sick of feeling like a guest in a family he married into, while also being the one treated like an outsider. Then he said if I wanted to keep a relationship with them, I had to make things right by getting my older daughter to apologize. Not just for what she said about their son. He wanted an apology for everything, for the way she talks about his wife, how she pretends he doesn't exist, and how she's poisoned the family against them for years. He said my younger daughter's mental health had gone downhill again after the fight, and he wasn't going to tolerate the family treating her like a walking shame badge for the rest of her life. So I agreed to talk to my older daughter. I thought, maybe if I'm honest with her, if I level with her, no drama, no lectures, she'll see reason. I was wrong. We met for coffee. I told her flat out that her comment about the child being some kind of punishment was way over the line. I also told her that if we ever wanted to have holidays or birthdays together again, she needed to sit down with her sister and apologize. She barely looked up from her drink. She asked me if I thought her sister ever paid a price for what she did. I told her yes. She asked me what price. I told her about the guilt, the isolation, the fractured family, and the child's challenges. She laughed under her breath and said that wasn't a price. That was just life moving on for the happy couple. She told me if I wanted someone to say the right thing, I should go talk to someone who didn't get gutted by her own sister. I told her I needed more from her, not just silence or bitterness or cutting herself off from everyone. I told her she could have moved on by now, started a new life, and met someone else. She looked me in the face and said, I didn't ask for your advice. I asked for my family to choose me when it counted. We didn't talk for weeks after that. My younger daughter started pulling back too. She told me it hurt to know I had to think about who to stand up for. She said she always expected the cold shoulder from her sister, but didn't think it would take me years to defend her as a wife and mother. She didn't say much after that, but I could tell she was siding with her husband, and honestly, I didn't blame her. Then came the vow renewal mess. My younger daughter and her husband told us they wanted to renew their vows this year. 5 years married. She wanted to do it for their son, said she wanted him to see his parents standing together. Then she dropped the bomb. She wanted to do it at the original venue. The one where the first wedding was supposed to happen before everything blew up. She said it felt like a full circle moment. My wife told her it was a bad idea, but she didn't care. She said her sister had 5 years to reclaim her life, and if she hadn't, that wasn't her fault. I told her I'd be there, and I meant it. That decision cost me another blow up with my older daughter. She found out about the venue from my sister. I hadn't told her myself. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to deal with it. She called me and told me I was spitting in her face. That if I showed up to that vow renewal, I could forget about ever hearing from her again. I showed up anyway. The event itself was awkward. My son-in-law's family was there in full force. Some people on our side showed up out of obligation. I tried to keep things light. I gave a toast. I said what I was supposed to say. Then, during dinner, the son-in-law pulled me aside. He asked if my daughter was going to apologize, or if this whole thing was just going to keep rotting. I told him I tried, but she wouldn't budge. He snapped. Told me I needed to stop trying and start actually standing up for what's right. He was tired of playing nice while everyone lets her rot in her grief. We argued. He said I was half the reason their marriage still lived under a shadow. My wife stepped in before it got worse, but everyone noticed. After that, my sister tried to get involved. She's always played mediator. She had a long talk with the son-in-law and tried to get them to agree to family therapy. There was one meeting. My wife and I showed up. The younger daughter did too. The older daughter skipped it. When the therapist asked if we wanted to try again with her, the younger daughter said no, she was done trying to fix things with someone who looked at her like she was filth. That was that. Weeks later, I forgot my older daughter's birthday for the first time in my life. There was too much going on with my grandson's new therapy schedule. I sent her a text when I remembered, no response. I sent a gift card, nothing. A few days later, I got a short email. You've finally made your choice. I'm done. I kept it. Haven't replied. So now here we are. My wife and I hosted a family gathering a few weeks ago. Small group. My younger daughter and her husband came. My grandson was there too. I kept thinking maybe we could enjoy something normal for once. But it didn't last. During a stupid conversation about movies, I made a dry comment about how my older daughter used to love that actor until he left his wife. My son-in-law looked straight at me and said, "You don't have to keep using other people to remind me of what I did." We got into it again. This time in front of everyone. I told him he was lucky anyone in this family ever let him back in the door. He told me I never had the balls to take a real stand, that I blame everyone except the one person who kept the grudge alive. Then he left with my daughter and grandson. It's quiet again now. I keep thinking it's never going to change unless someone breaks. And it won't be me. I did my best. My older daughter could have had a life. She could have moved on. But she wanted to hang on to the version of her ex that only ever existed in her head. He chose someone else. They had a kid. She could have done the same, found love, built something, but instead she stayed angry. And now she's alone. This won't get fixed. Not while everyone still wants to act like she's the only one who was hurt. She was the spark. Everyone else is still choking on the smoke. Comments. Comment 1. You really sat there and said your daughter could have had a life. Like she wasn't shoved off a cliff by two people who were supposed to love her the most. You talk about her like she's pathetic for not finding someone new, while you keep playing grandpa to the kid that symbolizes everything that broke her. You keep demanding apologies like this is some broken fence to patch up. It's not. And let's be real, you weren't just trying to help her move on. You were trying to smooth it over so you could sleep better. Every decision you've made has been about preserving your own comfort. You never cared what kind of emotional meat grinder she went through, as long as she didn't rock the boat at your family dinner table. And now you're shocked she wants nothing to do with you. She wasn't the spark. You were the one handing out matches and begging everyone to play nice. Comment 2. You should have shut that SHT down the moment it happened. 4 years ago. Instead, you gave everyone just enough rope to hang themselves. You let your younger daughter stay in your house, brought your grandson around like it was normal, and left your older daughter bleeding on the porch. The damage wasn't done by a single betrayal. It was death by 1,000 polite silences. Now your younger one wants closure. Your son-in-law wants validation. And you're standing in the middle wondering why everyone's pissed. Let me break it down. You raised a kid who slept with her sister's fiancé. You embraced the guy who humiliated your daughter in front of your whole family. And now you blame the hurt one for not rebuilding. She doesn't owe you a life story with a happy ending. You're lucky she gave you the time of day after what you stood by and let happen. You don't need therapy. You need a effing mirror. Comment 3. Your son-in-law wants an apology like he's owed something. The ball's on that guy. He cheats on his fiancée with her younger sister, gets her pregnant, then plays the victim because your older daughter doesn't want to pretend there's some happy little family. You're bending over backwards to stay in his good graces because he gave you a grandkid, and that's the only reason. You say you want peace, but what you really want is submission. You want your older daughter to suck it up, smile, and be grateful her replacement is happy. That's why you keep pushing her to move on, instead of actually facing what all of you let slide. You're not neutral. You're afraid. And honestly, she's right to shut you all out. Update. I guess this is where the story ends. So this is where I'm at. A year ago, I thought we were a broken family trying to glue ourselves back together. Now I'm just the guy everyone wants to forget. Things didn't just fall apart. They collapsed in waves. I'll try to piece it together for anyone still following. After the last blow-up, my younger daughter and her husband started pulling back from me too. I didn't think it would last. She's always been more passive during these fights. But one day she came over without the kid, sat me down, and said she needed space. She told me I never truly stood up for her. That I kept trying to play referee instead of telling her sister she'd lost all moral ground to be acting like a victim 4 years in. She said I let her husband get bashed for stealing, someone he clearly didn't want anymore, and made their marriage feel like some shameful little side note. I told her I'd done everything I could. She said, "No, you did everything that made you feel better." She left. Stopped answering my texts for a while. Still hasn't returned my last call. That's how it started. A few weeks after that, I thought I had a smart idea, one last attempt to shake things loose and move things forward. I invited an old college boyfriend of my older daughter's to a BBQ. He was in town. She used to be crazy about him back in the day, before her ex. I figured maybe if she saw there were still people who cared about her, she'd remember who she used to be. She never came. Word must have gotten out, because I got a message from her the next day. "You're pathetic. Don't contact me again." Then came the cease and desist letter. A week later, I went to her apartment. I wasn't looking to fight. I just wanted to talk. I brought a book she used to love. She wouldn't open the door. She said she could call the cops if I didn't leave. A week after that, I got a letter from a lawyer. She accused me of harassment, emotional manipulation, and mental stress. The words were clinical, but the intent was clear: stay away. That one broke something in me. I hadn't even been calling her that much. But apparently even one message was too much now. A month after that, I ended up in the hospital. Mild heart issue. chest pain, tightness, dizzy spells. Nothing fatal, they said, but stress-induced and something to watch. My wife came once. Sat with me for an hour. Didn't say much. My younger daughter texted the next day. Hope you're okay. Let me know if you need anything. She didn't come either. My grandson doesn't even know I was there. My older daughter. Not a word. I stayed home for a few weeks after that. Quiet. Angry. I thought about reaching out again. Didn't. I just sat in it. Then came the final insult. A cousin on my wife's side was getting married. I got an email with a guest list. Both my daughters were on it. I wasn't. I asked my wife what the hell that was about. She said the cousin didn't want tension. That I make people uncomfortable. I showed up anyway. Walked in with a couple of drinks already in me. I wasn't sloppy, but I wasn't quiet either. The son-in-law gave me a look. My older daughter walked out of the hall the second she saw me. I stood there in front of people I've known for decades and said, "Guess I'm just a family disgrace now. The guy who tried to hold it all together while everyone else tore it apart." No one said anything. Not even my wife. I left after 20 minutes. 2 days later, my wife told me she was leaving. She didn't pack everything. Just some essentials. She said she couldn't do it anymore, couldn't keep pretending we were on the same page. She said she'd been unhappy for a long time. And I stopped hearing her when I started fighting for a family that didn't want to exist anymore. I asked her if she was going to stay with our daughter. She said no, she was going to her sister's. Said she needed to be somewhere that didn't feel like a landmine. That's the last straw, isn't it? I retired last year. I thought I was going to finally have time with my grandkid, build something peaceful, and maybe even get both daughters back in the same room again. Thought we'd get over it. We didn't. I've been sitting in this empty house for a few weeks now. Haven't heard from either daughter. My wife calls sometimes, mostly for logistics. She says she's seeing a counselor now. Good for her, I guess. I still go online and read the comments. You people talk like I'm some cartoon character. You think I didn't bleed every time this family split down another fault line? I tried to keep people from hating each other. I tried to protect the kid, protect the future, and keep the door open for both sides. But nobody ever tried to understand me. The older one could have gone to therapy. She had the chance. I offered to pay. I offered to go. She said no every time. Said I was the problem. Maybe I was, but at least I tried. The younger one could have stayed in her lane. Could have owned her mistake, stayed humble. But no, she wanted pity and wanted me to make everything feel normal, even when it wasn't. The son-in-law. He could have stayed loyal. Could have walked away before dragging both daughters into this hell. But he didn't. And then he had the audacity to lecture me about who I should apologize to. Hell, even the older one could have just accepted her ex didn't love her anymore. She could have found someone new, started a family, had a life, but she didn't want a life. She wanted him. And when she didn't get him, she wanted punishment. And me. I'm the guy who paid the price. You call me cold. You say I favored the wrong kid. But I sat in every conversation, tried every angle, and bit my tongue more times than I can count. I sacrificed being right for being stable. And none of it mattered. I don't even know why I'm writing this anymore. No one's coming back. There's no dinner table to fix. No holidays to plan. Just a half-decorated living room, a drawer full of unopened letters, and an inbox full of silence. I thought I'd retire and be the granddad with stories. Instead, I'm the punchline to a Reddit thread. A man with 2 daughters and no family. I still wake up thinking someone's going to call. But they won't. They've all decided I'm the root of it, so be it. I tried. I really effing tried. Comments. Comment 1. What makes this whole thing uncomfortable is that I can see how you got here, even while thinking you're wrong. You genuinely believed proximity meant healing. If people could just be in the same room long enough, something would soften. That works for mild conflicts. This wasn't mild. Your older daughter wasn't holding on to her ex. She was holding on to a version of herself that got erased. The younger one wasn't just seeking sympathy. She was trying to survive life, knowing she caused irreversible damage. And your son-in-law. He's the one person who never paid a social price equal to the emotional damage he caused. And everyone's pretending that isn't true. Your mistake wasn't loving the wrong child more. It was loving outcomes more than people. Peaceful holidays. A visible grandparent role. A retirement that looked good from the outside. When those collapsed, you blamed the person who refused to perform normalcy. What hurts most reading this isn't your anger. It's how alone you sound now and how convinced you are that aloneness proves you were right. Sometimes it just proves that everyone ran out of energy, trying to explain the same thing in different ways. Comment 2. I'm reading this as someone your age with grown kids, and what stands out isn't the cheating or the curse words or even the cease and desist. It's how transactional your love became without you realizing it. You kept score. Who showed up, who embarrassed you, who made family gatherings awkward, and who allowed you access to the parts of life you still wanted. And when people didn't fit into that version, you pushed them harder instead of asking why they were pulling away. Your older daughter didn't just lose a fiancé. She lost the narrative of her future. And every time you told her she could have moved on, what she likely heard was that her pain had an expiration date, and she missed it. Meanwhile, your younger daughter learned that if she stayed close enough, complied enough, and produced enough normalcy, she'd still get a seat at the table. Then the moment neither of them gave you what you needed anymore, you started keeping receipts. I don't think you're evil or stupid. I think you're exhausted and grieving the life you assumed you earned just by holding on. The tragedy is that you're still framing this like someone else failed the test when the test was never about fixing them. It was about whether you could sit with loss without trying to rearrange people into a shape that made you comfortable. Comment 3. There's something fascinating about how you narrate everyone else's emotional failures like a disappointed teacher, your older daughter's bitterness, your younger one's fragility, your wife's distance, your son-in-law's audacity, and then treat your own desperation as a noble effort. You want people to believe you held this crumbling ship together. But all I see is someone who ignored every lifeboat offered, because the idea of being right mattered more than being present. They didn't leave you because they're cruel. They left because your presence kept reopening the story they were all trying to forget. You wanted healing on your terms. The timeline, the method, the outcome. And the second anyone refused, you took it personally. Now you're sitting alone and calling it sacrifice. It's not. It's just the ending that happens when you ignore every warning and call it perseverance. Second story. I refused my stepdaughter throwing a party at my house, just like I did for my son. But my partner, who accepted canceling my son's plans, refused to do the same with his daughter. My 24-year-old biological son moved back in with my spouse and me this summer to get his life back on track. This is meant to be temporary. I've been clear that by the end of January, he needs a documented planned school, a trade, etc. And I've even set aside $10,000 to help cover trade school if needed. He's made some progress, including paying off about $5,000 in debt by working multiple jobs. Yesterday, my son told me not asked that he planned to bring a woman he just met on Tinder to stay at our house for 2 nights. We live about 100 miles from the city. My spouse was immediately uncomfortable with having a stranger stay in our home. I also had concerns because my son privately told me she is a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, has had legal issues, and is only 22. I told him that if he were actually dating someone, and we had met her first, that would be different. But bringing a complete stranger to stay for 2 nights wasn't something we were comfortable with. This led to a broader argument. While discussing boundaries around strangers in the house, I told my spouse that I'm also not comfortable with my 17-year-old stepdaughter hosting a New Year's Eve party at our house, while we'll be a 20-hour drive away. My spouse had already told her she could have the party, despite my objections. Last year, my stepdaughter hosted a Halloween party while we were home to supervise, and several random 20-something adults showed up after hearing about it. I had to ask them to leave, and I don't know how many more would have come if we hadn't been there. So I said that if we're saying no to strangers staying over for my son, the same rule applies to parties for my stepdaughter. No party while we're away. That caused a major fight, and now my son, spouse, and stepdaughter are all angry with me. I feel like I'm expected to help everyone, but not allowed to set boundaries in my own home. We also have valuable and sentimental items in the house, and I don't want to risk damage or worse while we're gone. Ada for saying no to strangers staying over or parties happening when we aren't home. TLDR. I said no to my adult son bringing a stranger home, and no to my teenage stepdaughter hosting a party while we're away. Now everyone is mad at me. Comments. Commenter 1. Is your son paying rent? If so, why TA? If he pays rent, he gets to invite whoever he wants over. It may be disrespectful to go against your wishes, but rent trumps respect. As for your stepdaughter, unless there's an adult present, it's completely reasonable to have no parties. Edit. With no new information at all. And thanks for treating both kids the same and not playing favorites. OP, no, we do not charge him any rent. I paid off his debt in the past, but not this time. I told him he can stay rent-free to pay off his debt, which he has. And until he gets a plan in place to help him move forward successfully with his life and save money to help him next year. He also gets free use of the second car. He pays for the gas and contributes towards the increase in insurance while he is here. Commenter 2. NTA, but why did it take having to say no to your son to decide your stepdaughter couldn't have a party? Why wasn't that addressed immediately? There are bigger issues at play in your marriage, clearly, because you're not able to get on the same page. OP, I actually already had said no, especially as we will be away. But they chose to ignore my wishes and never listened. Everyone thinks I am a doormat. My ex made the same mistake until it was too late. Being a nice person is not the same as being a doormat. But that's the way it seems these days. I am accommodating until I am not. Commenter 3. NTA, I bet you cover the majority of expenses. Best to go ahead and tell them all to GTFO if they don't like it. OP Elmao. Yeah, that's actually 100% true. Behind the scenes, I have been paying for the majority of things without any fanfare. I just knuckle down and deal with things behind the scenes. Now my income has taken a hit this year sales job, and I need help to pay the bills without getting into debt, but feel that is not being received as well as I hoped. Commenter 4. NTA, mostly. The only thing I think is off is that you're making the same rules for both. There are reasons in both cases to say no, but you linking them, saying, I said no to my son having strangers, so I'm saying no to your daughter, isn't the link you want to make. If there was a different situation where you did say yes to your son, having a stranger over a friend down on his luck, and needing a place to stay for a night, now you're asking for a fight with your spouse. I thought we weren't allowing strangers over. The son's case is a stranger, 2 nights, and she's maybe got some reasons why you don't necessarily want to welcome her in the house. In your daughter's case, it's not just strangers. It's strangers while you're not home, most certainly involving alcohol. She's been proven not trustworthy before, couldn't stop a party from getting out of hand. And there's a legal liability on your end if someone gets hurt. Is your husband not aware of this risk? That's crazy. OP, I explained that to my wife last time. We had 3 adults, including myself, to supervise Halloween 2024. I said last time, no more parties. House parties I am completely uncomfortable with. My stepdaughter thinks she is able to control everything. I know that obviously is not true, but teens. Commenter 5. My 17-year-old stepdaughter is hosting a New Year's Eve party at our house, while we'll be a 20-hour drive away. I can guarantee that some items will be stolen, more items will be damaged, and plenty of strangers will come. And that's if you're lucky, and it's a great party with great kids who can control themselves. Someone also will have sex in your bed. If you're unlucky, then someone will be assaulted, or someone will drink too much and need medical attention, or someone will bring who knows which drugs, also possibly resulting in a need for hospitalization. Or they will damage more than a few glasses and pillows. Why is your partner agreeing with this? Commenter 6. Someone will throw up behind the couch, and the police will be called, and the next day you will be fielding calls from angry parents and neighbors. OP, ironically, the neighbor's kids did this about 8 years ago. Destroyed his house, and one girl had a psychotic episode, and an ambulance had to be called. That knowledge lives with me to this day. OP gives an example of the last time when his stepdaughter had a small party. OP, it was supposed to be the last time. She said 20, took the day off, and admitted she invited 40-50. Then more strangers showed up, the 20-somethings, etc. Cars parked all over the dangerous road outside. Update. My son apologized to me and my partner for not communicating ahead and agreed he was thinking with his other head. He has been a little depressed lately, as who wants to move home with their parents at 24? He agreed. He should 100% have asked ahead. And it is probably a little weird to bring a Tinder date home he only just met once. He let his loneliness get the better of his judgment. He is extremely thankful for the help he has gotten this year to get back on his feet. And I think the talk we had has given him some much-needed positivity, that things are not as bad as he feels. For the 17-year-old, we have come to a compromise. Her mom will travel on her own to deal with the out-of-town issue that we had to deal with. I will stay home alone. She is allowed to have her friends over, but is limited to an agreed in advance guest list of no more than 20 kids or so, all local and all from her year in high school. If anyone else shows up, I show them the door. So more an Xmas class gathering than a house party. It will be closed and limited. No drugs, etc. And no more than 4 cars in my driveway. I will stay away on the other side of the house. It's big enough that it works. I apologize for not being more calm in my initial response, and my partner for not thinking it through. and also being too hard on my son initially. All in, things like this sometimes become a valuable learning lesson and a way for people to be more open about what is going on in their heads and get it out so we can all address the issues and help each other. It's hard for everyone right now, especially the young out from college looking for their start in life. Thanks to everyone on this thread for their input. Your feedback has been invaluable. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.